Hello, this is Abby.
Dear Abbey, this is
Disagreement,
gonna be
disagreement,
a long one.
disagreement,
Oh boy.
disagreement,
Dear
disagreement,
Abbey,
disagreement,
how do you tell the difference
disagreement,
between
disagreement,
a new
disagreement,
exciting
disagreement,
crush and a
disagreement,
rebound?
disagreement, Does it disagreement. matter?
Dear Abbey, Dear Abbey, Dear Abbey.
Welcome to our little corner of the internet. This is the Dear Abbey podcast. I hope you stay and hang out with us. See you in a sec. All right, okay. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Dear Abbey. I almost just forgot what the name of my podcast was. It's Dear Abbey. I almost just gave free advertising for another podcast that I listened to because I thought I was them for a second. I'm feeling good today. I just want to say thank you for listening. I hope you stick around the whole episode. It's an interesting journey you go on when you are an overthinker and everything feels like a big deal. And then you start, are my feet showing? I'll cover that in case my feet are showing. It's perverts. Anyways, when you're an overthinker, then you get on social media and everything seems like a really big deal. Like you overthink everything you post because you want everything to have meaning and purpose behind it. And then you just go through ups and downs with like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I was talking to my dad and I was telling him the fear of when you do get into social media and when people start to say really nice things about you and you get a lot of attention online and it almost immediately goes to your head, like to your ego, and it almost becomes like a distortion of that you think you have like a superiority way of thinking almost automatically when you do receive so much attention. That's not like, I don't actually think that way. If I did, I wouldn't care if I thought that way. Do you know what I mean? But it is so natural to just start to take every positive thing as fact and also every negative thing as fact, when in reality, it's a little bit of both. He was just talking about how the best way to handle that is just to not, I don't think I have to worry about that too much of becoming self-obsessed and self-absorbed because I just have to be aware of it. I just sometimes feel anxious about that. And he was saying the best way to handle that is by just taking everything with a grain of salt, the positive and the negative. Like it just don't let it make you see yourself in any different way. Like you know who you are, and my confidence shouldn't depend on how I'm being received or how I'm not being received because there's no control over it. Like no one controls that. It's just luck or unluck, or if you're popular versus not popular, if people like it or they don't like it. There's a million different factors that go into everything. So it's not as black and white as we sometimes make it. Long story short, I feel a lot more at ease I've been doing the podcast and social media for a long time, for a while now. So I'm very comfortable with how it goes and everything is just kind of in one ear out the other in like the best way possible. And I'm also much more open to feedback because I don't take feedback personally anymore, which is very freeing. I think I just don't have it attached to like my worthiness or my worth anymore. That is because like a lot of the things that I still work on and I improve on within myself is because of the podcast and that I know I have people listening. What a long intro. Today's episode, I'm excited because we're talking about relationship anxiety and OCD. Again, I've had a couple of episodes about this, but I think there's so much stuff to talk about and dissect within relationship anxiety and OCD. But also if you have like anxious or avoidant attachment styles woven in somewhere, because they're all intermingled a little bit, for me at least. I don't know how accurate that is, but for me it feels very kind of all over the place. Like I have a little bit of both, a little bit of everything. But yeah, we're going to talk about relationship anxiety, things that I like, mind shifts that have really helped me find more joy in my relationship and in life, and also some other fears that people might have, some themes that I had within my relationship, and not just romantic, but also, with family, friends, all of that stuff. It can definitely attack everything. So that's what we're getting into today. I'm very excited because this still sometimes can kind of get in the way, but it doesn't stay and it's not as sticky and it doesn't affect me as much just because I've worked on it a lot with my therapist and everything. And even if you don't have relationship anxiety or any of that stuff, I think this is also just helpful because it's just good information about relationships. And I think even if you don't have these things that are overbearing, there's always room to improve and have a better relationship and with your spouse or significant other or yourself. So we're talking about all that stuff. But first, let's do our dubs and L's. So my dub for this week is that for the past couple of weeks, I've been really consistent with my calisthenics training. And today, for the first time, I was able to not do a full pull-up, but I was able to get halfway, which is more than I've ever done in my whole life. Like not cheating, not jumping, just full, slow strength, halfway up. And then also during every workout, you are supposed to do negative pull-ups. So you start with your chin over and then you slowly go down until you're hanging. And I used to immediately, when I would let go with my feet, I would immediately drop. I had no strength to go from a chin up and then down slowly to hanging. It would just go from 100 to 0 immediately, and I would fall and it would kind of hurt my arm. The first time I tried it, no strength. And it's been a couple of weeks now, and I do it a couple times a week. And today I actually felt stronger, where when I did the negative pull up for the first time, I was just able to do it with no help. And I did it slow and controlled, but I could only do one. But that's one more than I've ever done before. So I was very proud of myself, and I was shocked that I saw improvement. It made me feel the same way when I used to lift weights and I would actually get stronger. And that feeling is so gratifying because I did not want to work out today. When I was done with work, I was so tired. Like I just wanted to nap. I told myself I don't have enough energy. I don't think it's healthy for me to do this. And I have said all of those things to myself before, and I always regret not working out. So I'm just like, no matter how I feel, I'm just going and doing these things. And so got home, did not want to go, but changed, just didn't think about it. Got all my stuff on, walked over to the gym, worked out, got home, and I'm so happy that I went. Yeah, I feel like today has been just a good day. I listened to a cool podcast about birth because, as I said before, I'm training to be a doula. So I'm learning a lot about natural birth. I'm learning a lot about everything when it comes to birth. And it's like so beautiful and empowering and can be very scary. Like I'm not going to lie. My anxiety has increased since I've been listening to all this stuff because I just think about what if, and what if everything goes wrong. And I think it's actually really good that I'm exposing myself to this stuff because I'm learning that I am so negative still with like how I envision my future. So I guess this is an L. Like when I picture me being happy, it makes me feel sick. Like I'm not allowed to feel happy. Or if I try to picture a really positive future, it kind of feels like it's overshadowed, or this sad energy just swallows that up. And then I just feel sad. And I feel like I'm not allowed to think positively about, I'm not pregnant, and I'm not close to being pregnant. I hope someday I have kids. That's one of the main things I've always wanted. I loved being an older sister. I still remember that was just my pride and joy were my little brothers. And I loved spending every second with them because it's just the miracle of life, People are all that matter. I'm very excited to have kids, but I think that the journey of even learning about this stuff is showing me that I have a lot more work to do. And that's exciting because that means my life can get better, that my gratitude of life can get better, and that my understanding of life can get better, which is exciting to me. I guess today, actually, when I was listening to a book as well on birth, I felt a little bit less anxious. And I was able to kind of see the what ifs as just that, as what ifs. But I can see that that's there, I can see that that's where my mind is going. And that's okay because we've gone there a lot my whole life. This is kind of ingrained at this point. But I'm going to give energy over here now. And so slowly that will start to get less and less once I show my brain I don't have to think about that stuff. Because I think the temptation is when you go to a really when you start to feed the what ifs, you feel like you're fixing something and you feel like you're getting somewhere, but you're not because you have no control. And so I've talked about this before, but I'll set aside a time to worry. I think it's totally normal to have anxiety about things, and it's totally normal to be anxious about something that's important. And so what you can do is make a plan for whatever it is. And obviously with being a doula, you help people make plans for their birth so they feel empowered, they know what to do in each situation, and you can help advocate, and they feel like they have control over what they have control over, if that makes sense. And so that is an important step when you are anxious about something that's, big and it's in front of you, and it's like, okay, how can we plan this as much as possible? And then just surrender and accept the rest is out of our control. It's okay to make a plan. That's the best way to handle anxiety, I've learned, is to make a plan and then execute the plan. I sound like one of those guys that post on YouTube that are like sales bros or something. Make a plan and execute. But, they do have a point. When I am super anxious about something and I feel like everything's out of control, that's because I'm probably not fully taking responsibility for what I do have control over. And that's the way that I think about things. Not all of my thoughts. I don't have control over all of my thoughts, but I have control over what I lean into. I have control over my perspective. I can change that. My beliefs, I can change. And so, whenever I make a plan and I execute the plan, or I just have a direction, then I feel like that alleviates 80% of the anxiety. And then the leftover is just the leftover stuff. That's way more manageable. Not all anxiety just needs to be ignored. I think there's some anxiety if it's directed at a specific event that's in the future or something that's real, then it's like, okay, let's make a plan. And then after that, the rest is manageable, and surrender the rest, and all that stuff that I always talk about. It's kind of similar to ACT, like that ACT therapy, acceptance commitment therapy, where you find your values, what's important to you, and you really nail those down as much as possible. Sometimes things change, but you can listen to yourself with, okay, what do I think is the most important thing in my life right now? I don't know. Life is tricky because it's like a balance of not controlling everything and recognizing you don't have control over most things, and then also having responsibility over what you do have control over and really stepping into that. I don't think you're ever going to get a perfect balance because life is just up and down, but that is, we can work towards some type of balance between that, right? I don't know. It's hard. Sometimes you lean more this way, sometimes you lean more that way, and then you go back and forth. And then sometimes you get it right in the middle, but it doesn't last very long, unfortunately. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Geez, that went on for a long time. Okay, let's get into the relationship stuff. This is what the people want. I'm going to tell you all of my secrets about all of my relationships and all of my endeavors. Okay, never mind. I'm not going to keep going, but I'm not going to do that. That's what people want. I'm not giving it to you. So suck my butt. Okay. Let me pull up my list of things. I have like a whole list of stuff that I kind of forgot that I struggled with my relationship anxiety and with my relationship and how I viewed it. I wanted to list off some of my fears and some of my themes with my relationship to my significant other, so a romantic partner. One of them that has come up recently, it happened at the beginning and then it happens every once in a while. Like it still kind of gets sticky for a second. And that fear is, what if they're supposed to be with someone from their past? Or what if they're better with an ex-girlfriend? I think for me, this is an interesting one because I've never cared about that, I guess, with like anyone that I've been with in the past. I never think about if they were better with their ex because I was confident. So I'm like, you're not going to find me again because I'm the only me. But with my fiance, when we first started dating, that fear didn't really come up. A couple months in, and once I had, like, if he would ever say anything about an ex, or if he was telling a story and there was another girl in it, and any issue that we had, like that we had to work out within our relationship and communication, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I would just think about, what if he was better at communicating with someone else? What if someone else is better at making him happy, at giving him what he needs, what he wants, like especially physically? It wasn't just the physical though, it was physical and emotional. And like, what if I'm not funny enough? And what if his ex was funnier? And what if he just is better suited for someone else? Or what if someone else is just better suited for him? Like he should be with his ex is basically what I would think. Like he's probably better off with his ex. And that was so distressing because I couldn't prove that. And I also am like, I don't know. It sounds like they were like, okay. And if they didn't end on bad terms, and I was like, well, who says that they can't just get back together and then they'd be better than us? You know, that's kind of where that rabbit hole went, was, yeah, just the uncertainty of what if someone is better suited for him that can make him happier. I think that really came down to, I didn't feel like I could be good at loving someone and also couldn't receive the love. Didn't think I was going to cry, but I've just been realizing this today, even like when I try to accept hugs, it's really hard for me to just be loved and to like accept the hug. I totally push people away. That's such like a cliche thing. It was just my belief that I am unlovable and my belief that I'm bad at giving love and that I just can't have a functional relationship. I think that's kind of where it comes from, like, is the core fear of what if I'm just never going to have a functional relationship that like I'm happy in. And that's scary. You know, that's a real fear. That was a huge one. And it was really annoying because like I would want to see pictures of his exes. I would want to like know what they looked like and I would compare myself physically to them if they had a better body, or also if they seemed just like cooler or more chill, more relaxed, more fun. Like it was a mess. It was just exhausting. And I did a really bad job at the beginning of not projecting that onto Keaton. And I'd ask him a lot of questions. And it wasn't like the normal girl thing where it's like, oh, tell me again why you love me more than them. It was like, do you think that they were better for you? It was more like to get certainty that he would never go back to them, and that he thought that they were all toxic and everyone was toxic but me, which is ironic because that's a little bit toxic in and of itself. And so I recognize that that's not how I act anymore, but I give myself grace because I was doing the best that I could. Okay. That's just one of the things that relationship OCD and just avoidant, any kind of just relationship stuff. It's just hard to it does bring up a lot of stuff that you really have to look inward and deal with, or it keeps affecting the relationship. Yeah. It takes a lot of work to start to understand yourself more and understand your triggers. And you don't understand your triggers in relationships and in life to not get triggered anymore. I've learned you get triggered so that you know how to deal with it, which sounds obvious, but I used to think, okay, if I get triggered and I get triggered enough, then I'll never get triggered again. And that feeling will never come up, but that's not it. I mean, eventually maybe, but it's been a couple years now and the same things still trigger me. So I think it's when I feel this intense weight emotionally that comes up with a trigger, I can handle it so much better. I don't know. Maybe other people never get triggered again once they work on themselves. But for me, that's not the case. It takes a long time. Another thing which I talked about is just, are we toxic? Are we in a toxic relationship? Am I toxic? Am I a narcissist? And when I'd see posts about red flags, toxic relationships, narcissism, all of this stuff, I would read so many Instagram posts, the whole caption. Does not matter how long the caption was. I still read the entire caption from top to bottom. And I would think about, am I doing these things? Am I toxic? Am I a narcissist? And I was so scared for a while that I was a narcissist. Like, that's all I could think about was like, I'm a narcissistic person. I don't know. I'm like, maybe I am. Sometimes it still comes up, but I'm like, I don't think I am. So I would do a lot of that stuff where I would read posts or watch YouTube videos, and I would dissect our relationship, dissect him, dissect me, and just make sure that we're both not toxic, that he's not manipulative, I'm not manipulative, he's not a narcissist, I'm not a narcissist. Yeah, that just was exhausting because everyone is imperfect and we all have not great flags in relationships sometimes. But at least what I care about is people who work on those, and I work on those, and so does my fiance. So I think that's beautiful. Definitely, I had to cut out that. I had to not read any more posts. I just had to accept the fact that maybe we're toxic and maybe we're never going to be happy. That's just what I had to do. And so, yeah, I cut out all of the reading stuff, YouTube stuff. That was crazy. I would read so many Instagram posts every single day about relationships. And something else I would do in my relationship, because I feel very uncomfortable, this is more of my anxiousness coming out, is I try to see in him if he feels bothered by something. I try to figure out in my own mind, not asking him, the person who I should ask. I try to figure out in my own head, how can I prevent this small disagreement? How can I prevent you from holding on to this and resenting me 10 years down the road until it blows up? How can I prevent that? Also, how can I prevent us ever having an agreement like this again? Because what if it gets worse and worse and then therefore at the end we break up or something? I would try to figure out if there was something deeper. Like if he was annoyed with me that day, I'm like, there has to be something deeper. Like he must be, I don't know. I would try to figure out all of these reasons that's under what he, like any other emotion that he felt other than like pure bliss and joy and thinking I'm hilarious. And that was exhausting because he could be, like maybe he was, or maybe he is sometimes holding something against me or feels a little bit of resentment or something. I don't know. But that's also not my job to figure out. And I had to respect him enough to not pry like that and to give him enough. Yeah, I don't know. It feels like more respectful, and I would hope. And when he does that for me, it feels like, oh, wait, no, this feels better to have someone respect my space and trust that if I need to say something, I will. I should give him the same respect and trust that if he has something to say to me, he will say it because he always has. Like, I just have to trust him that if something is a big deal or if I'm doing something so wrong all the time that he will let me know. So I stopped trying to pry things and to try to figure all of it out underneath the surface and just let him come to me when he wants to come to me about something. So that's not necessarily OCD. I think that's just normal anxious attachment type stuff. Okay, another thing was, do I feel enough love for him? I would always check my feelings. I'd be like, okay, do I feel enough love for him? When I turn around and I look at him, do I think, oh my gosh, he's so handsome. He's the most beautiful man in the world. And he's everything that I've ever wanted. And I expected to feel that way every single time I looked at him. That was crazy of me because I don't think anyone feels that way about their significant other every single time they see them. And if you are the most healthily attached person. And I want to know how you were raised, and I want to know everything about your life because I would love if I could teach my kids that and they could feel that every single time they look at their significant other. And it wasn't that I didn't love him, because I'd look at him and I think, oh, he's so cute, but I expected to feel this love for him. I expected to feel this big, oh my gosh, like butterflies every time I looked at him. And when it didn't happen, I'd be like, oh my gosh, wait, do I not love him anymore? Am I just going to be miserable? Am I going to be stuck in this forever? And it would just go down this loop of, just what if I'm miserable? And basically back to the same thing where what if I'm doomed to have a horrible relationship and I'll never be happy? Which that exact thing made it so I felt less for him because I was so anxious. That's all I could feel was anxiety towards him. So when I'd see him, I just would feel anxious. And I'm like, okay, well then that would further instill this cycle of, oh my gosh, I don't love him enough because I don't feel this love for him every single time I look at him. That is a dangerous cycle to get into. It's very hard to get out of, but it's 100% possible because I did it and I was stuck with this. You guys, when I tell you for like a year straight, I mean, I've had it for a while, but when it was every single day, I would stay up every single day. That's what was happening in my brain. But we got through it and now we're here. And if I have ever those thoughts that come up that do you think he's cute enough? I just think, probably not. It just doesn't faze me anymore. The last thing that I'll talk about today is the fear of settling. I was scared that I was settling with him. What if I could be happier with someone else? What if, when you see these movies or these Instagram posts of these couples who are like running in fields and they look like they don't care about anything and they're only in love all the time and that's all they ever feel is freedom and, peace and all this stuff. When I didn't feel like that all the time, then I would feel anxious that I'm settling. And that was the compulsive thing, was to check to see how I'm feeling. If I feel those things, if I didn't, I would get anxious, and then I'd get more anxious, and then I would check again, then I'd get more anxious. Yeah, the way out of that for me was to stop checking, and if I ever had thoughts like, what if I'm settling, or if I got like a sick feeling in my stomach or like a pit in my stomach, I didn't associate that to my relationship anymore. I just associated to that I feel anxious and I'm going to sit with this feeling. If there's something that needs to come up, it'll come up, but I'm pretty smart and I'll be able to figure it out without all of this extra anxiety and OCD obsessing part of me. Well, that was a lot of different things with relationship OCD. I maybe have touched on those before, but I kind of wanted to go more in depth of other ways that theme can creep in. I did have some relationship anxiety and OCD with my parents and with my family and my siblings, and then also some of my friends. Like, I had thoughts like, what if I'm in the wrong family? And then when I would hang out with my family, I'd be like, okay, do they love me? I would check to see if I feel enough love for them. If I feel a part of the family, I would feel kind of isolated when I'd be with them because I was just in my head thinking, do I even belong here? I've said this on the podcast before a long time ago, but I legitimately was concerned that I was in the wrong family, like that I was just born into the wrong family and that no one cares about me and I just don't fit in at all. Which is insane because me and my sister, I mean, our mannerisms are pretty much the same. Me and my younger, okay, well, maybe not. I don't know. I guess that's the worst thing you can do, huh? Is try to prove to yourself. It doesn't make me anxious, so I don't think it matters if I do that because it just doesn't make me anxious anymore because I think it's just stupid now looking back. But at the time, it was not stupid. It can really latch on to anything. It's latched on to my relationship with like my faith in God. That's a big one too. So like, do I even love him? Why am I having these thoughts? I must not love him anymore. Oh my gosh, wait, no, I want to love him. How do I love him more? And then it just like created a whole spiral, which was also not fun. I don't want to just talk about, I've talked about some of the ways that can help with some of these things and what I did. A lot of it was to stop avoiding kissing my fiance, being physical with him. I had to stop avoiding good feelings. When I would feel good, I would almost like push it down because I didn't trust it or something. And so I had to stop avoiding good feelings and being like, oh, we're just relaxing. And I had to stop obviously reading those posts and checking my feelings all the time. I had to stop doing that. There's other little compulsions and little things that you probably do that you might not notice. So sometimes it was helpful for me and still is. I still need to do this. I'll probably do this tonight or tomorrow, actually, because I feel some things creeping in. But to make a list of compulsive behaviors, and if you're like, I'm not really sure if this is, just write it down and then we'll figure it out. Another thing that is helpful is to make voice memos for yourself. I've talked about this as well. You just do ERP with it. But talk to your therapist or someone that specializes in ERP and stuff before you kind of go full on with therapy, or just do what you want. But I don't know. I don't know everything. I'm not a therapist. I don't know anything. I'm not a therapist. Okay. This is not clinical advice. This is my experience. This is what I've been told. This is not clinical advice. I am not responsible. A huge thing that can be helpful for exposures, or some things that I did as an exposure, was to kiss him and just have fun, and also to shower him with compliments, even if I didn't feel this intense, oh my gosh, I want to make out with you right now. I think with anxiety, sometimes you have a very low libido. Not your concern, okay, what my life is like in that way. But sometimes I would feel guilty if I didn't feel obsessed, or if I didn't feel super turned on or super sexually, obsessed with the idea of kissing him or making out or something. And so I would avoid it. So instead of avoiding that and kissing and whatever and being intimate in whatever way, emotionally or physically, I would just go for it and not check my feelings during. It's really hard to do that. A lot easier said than done, but it is possible because I was scared I was faking stuff. Avoiding it just was not helping at all. Just made me feel worse. So you just got to go for it. I think I had to hold space for like feeling disappointed, because when I would feel disappointed with something that he would say or something he did, I would spiral from there. And so I just had to learn how to be disappointed. That was hard because people disappoint you, even the people that love you and that you love. And doesn't have to be in huge ways. It can just be in little ways. And sometimes I don't voice it, actually. If I don't feel like it's something that needs to be changed, sometimes I just realize that I do expect a lot from people, and I expect sometimes too much that is not told to them. So it's not really fair then to get mad at them. But I'm okay to feel disappointed because that's how I feel. Sometimes I just would avoid hanging out with my fiance. Then if I did hang out with him, I would check my feelings. And so I had to stop avoiding him. And also, weirdly enough, I had to really enjoy doing things on my own, and to, when I was alone, to not worry about my relationship. I think something that's just helpful, it's kind of what I talked about before with ACT therapy, is what kind of a partner do you want to be? What do you want to create in your home, in your place of living, your apartment, whatever, in your relationship? How do you want to be with your partner, whoever that is, and to show up as that person every time, and to try as hard as you can to become that person, and to create and to make that type of a home for yourself and for your significant other and for your relationships, even if it's not romantic, if it's a friend, a parent, a sibling, whatever. If you know and you recall who you want to be and how you want to be towards people that you love, that's really helpful. That's like one of the most helpful things for me, is when I get a little bit too into my anxiety and I start to kind of dwell on things or start to worry, I remember, okay, I want to be a partner that feels sure. I want to be a partner that creates peace and calm in their home. I want to be a partner that is a safe place for my fiance's emotions, whatever those are. I want him to come home and enjoy coming home. This is the other thing. And I don't want to do these things so that he doesn't leave me, because for a while, that's why I did that. But the intention has turned into, I want to do these things because that's who I want to be. And I want to love him in that way. No matter how he acts, and it's not like he acts bad, but even if I feel disappointed, and sometimes I could be a little bit dramatic, okay, and sensitive. And so even if I feel hurt or something, I still want to show up the way that I would be proud of myself for, and the way that I know I value. That alleviates a lot of stress off of my back, because now I'm not trying to fight for a perfect relationship. I'm just fighting for him, for exactly how he is right now, and perfect in everything. Last thing is specifically for relationship OCD. Well, really anything, but we're talking about relationships. You're not doing the exposure to try to find the answer. Okay, that's like the main reason you're doing an exposure, is to not find an answer and to realize there is no answer. And that's horrifying. Even when I say that, I still hate saying that, because I want the certainty of this is the answer, everything's going to be okay. But there's no answer. Like if they're the right or the wrong person, there's no answer to that. That's like tangible, that's like a yes or a no. It's just, that's not how it works. But I don't want to say that and to diminish anyone that does feel totally peaceful, calm. It's a yes, 1000%, always and forever. Because some people are like that, and they find those relationships, and that's just that's how they are. That's how their brain works. And I am so happy for those people, and I'm not taking anything away from that. But I think for some people with a certain brain who overthink stuff and who have OCD, you are not your OCD, okay? I'm not saying you can never be like those people that feel that certainty, but it does take us a while to feel that same peace and that same, certainty that other people feel. Okay, well, we're going to do a Dear Abbey. When the sun goes down on my side of town, and the overall feeling goes into your heart. I was listening to Casey Musgraves a lot today. Chelsea loves Casey Musgraves, and I never really listened to her. I've really been liking country music and more of that style lately because it just seems more peaceful. Gone into her a lot lately, and I don't know what it is. There's just something about it. Goodbye, bye, Irish goodbye. It's hard to forget your Irish goodbye.
Dear Abbey, how do I not feel embarrassed or shameful around having a mental health episode? I had a really bad episode of some anxiety and fear of abandonment yesterday, and I reached out to friends and family in a very panicked state, and now that everything is resolved, I am feeling embarrassed and shameful of the state that I was in yesterday. So I would love any advice you have on that. Thank you.
You know, after you've ridden the wave and now you're feeling better and you can think a little bit more rationally and more in the present moment, in the present day, and you're able to look at the facts. And when you feel like you're in that space again, it is easy to judge yourself and to look back to where you were and to, judge, shame yourself, to be embarrassed. Like, how did she not know better? Like, how can I be like this now, but that's how I was before? How can that be the same person? Just remind yourself that when you have those episodes, it feels so real because you have experienced something in your life that's made you feel that way. So a part of you that's very tender and very sensitive has this type of reaction because they were deeply hurt by something and they were abandoned by something and someone or whatever. And so I think that's a way you can have grace and compassion for yourself, looking back, thinking, okay, yeah, I feel better now, but it's easier to feel better now because I feel better now, you know? But when you feel terrible and you feel like all of these things are happening again and you start to put all these pieces together, even though they don't fit, but you're thinking irrationally because you feel so big about something, that's a very, very hard thing to master. I'm a big advocate for people with mental health and that it is a very real thing, and it's as real as a physical ailment because your mind is in your head and it is a physical thing. You just can't see it like a wound on the outside, but that's the thing. You can see it when it shows up with panic disorders or with anxiety attacks or, an episode like what you had experienced and what you might experience every once in a while. That's where it shows up, and no one should judge you for that or shame you or make you feel worse. And you're just doing the best that you can with managing those feelings because it's a very scary thing to do. And it's okay. Also, it's so okay that you need help and support. And I think what you did is exactly what you should do and exactly what is needed. And I think by reaching out to people when you have those episodes is the most responsible thing for you to do, and also the most helpful to you and your recovery and working towards a better place when you don't have to feel all of these things all the time or as often. I think instead of shaming and judging yourself for like, I can't believe I let that happen again, or I can't believe I let myself get to that point again, those are not helpful ways of thinking. Kind of tying back to the beginning when I said to make a plan moving forward, but also always make room for compassion for yourself. And the reason that you're making a plan and working on yourself is not to be ashamed of that side of you. It is not to be annoyed with that side of you. It is not to be embarrassed by that side of you. It is quite literally to love that side of you and to listen to that side of you. Not in the sense that everything it's saying is factual, but that there's a part of you that needs to be heard, that is deeply hurt. And I totally understand. I don't want to make it about me, so I hope this doesn't come off in that way, but I think I just feel more comfortable saying I speak from experience of this type of feeling, especially with bipolar disorder. And also just growing up with anxiety, I'd have panic attacks and anxiety attacks where I feel like it's kind of fear of abandonment or feeling helpless. And I would, hyperventilate, and I am going, like, my mind is going a million miles per hour, and I feel like nobody loves me, nobody cares anymore, just like that. and it just spirals and spirals, and I just am in a really dark place. And I would call my mom, I'd call somebody, I would call my fiance, and I would just explode like in tears. That's how I felt though. I felt like everyone was abandoning me. I felt like there's nothing for me here. I felt like everybody hates me. Nobody wants me. I don't want myself. I totally understand having episodes like that. And then a day later or a couple days later, or even sometimes hours later for me, I would feel totally fine. And I'm like, that was dramatic. It is tempting to go into that headspace of like, what is wrong with me? Which just further creates this distance from you feeling those things and for you being there for those parts of you that are hurt. Even now that I'm saying this, I'm reminded that I need to do this with myself more, because I still have a similar pattern of doing that exact thing that you're talking about, as being like embarrassed, like that I needed someone, or embarrassed that I needed to call someone. I hate that that's how social media and other people that don't understand mental health, or that they deny it or something that it exists, that's what it does to people who are struggling. It just creates further shame and confusion, and it's not helpful. It's like if someone were to have broken their leg and they need to call someone when they need help getting from point A to point B. That's what calling someone during an episode is like. Okay, there's no shame in that. You need that support system. Everyone needs support in some area of their life, whether they like to admit it or they do not like to admit it. Yeah, it's okay to be misunderstood by people. It's okay to need support. It's okay to need your mom. It's okay to need your family. It's okay to call somebody when you need help. In the movie, the boy, or the book and the movie, the boy, the horse, the mole, and the fox, I believe is what it's called. There's a part where I think the boy asks the mole, what's the bravest thing you ever said? And the mole says, help. And because that takes a lot of humility and admission that you need support. And there's nothing to be ashamed of for that. Everybody will need support sometime in their life. Anyways, I hope any of that was helpful. Thank you guys for listening to another episode of Dear Abbey, and I will see you guys next week. Have a good weekend. Take yourself out. Be kind to yourself, and love you. Bye.
taking a ride to Todayyyy 눈치 보면서 들어가야 할 때 찾아 나머진 바빠